What's up, Mission Kids team, and welcome to Volunteer Kickoff 2024 digital version. We missed you at the Volunteer Kickoff event. We had tons of fun. We played games, we worshiped together, we prayed together for all the kids, and we just got to have some fun and hang out and just really get clear on what we're going after together this year. So we missed you at that, but this video is the main session content that we did all together in the lobby, and then your coordinator should have also sent you some information about what you missed in your breakouts that were team specific, so make sure to check out both of those things to get caught up from the event. But the reason we do volunteer kickoff is to really just set the pace and the tone for the school year and what we're going after together. We volunteer in all different areas in Mission Kids, but when we have momentum in the same direction and are really clear on what we're going after and how we're going to do that, we're able to create really cool ripple effects just across all of Mission Kids and just be really clear about like what we want to do this school year and how we want to go about it. And so that is what we're going to do together today. But really grateful you're on the team, and I'm just really grateful for the school year that we have ahead and all that God is calling us to. So in Mission Kids, we are going after just creating opportunities for kids to find and follow Jesus, right? And so we've talked about our team values a couple times. We care for each other in Mission Kids. We show up, we have our eyes open, we care for each other, we offer help, we pray for each other, we cheer on each other. All of that is always true in Mission Kids, or we want it to be. We also have fun because we know that play is the language of kids, and that you'll never be able to just stand up in front of a group of kids and be like, you should follow Jesus, and have them all do what you said just because you said it. No, that's crazy, right? Like nobody does that because that we need a sense of connection and relationship in order to speak into kids' lives and have them trust what we say and care about what we say. And we build that relationship and that connection through play, through fun. So we prioritize fun in Mission Kids so that we can point kids to Jesus. We're playing the long game. The third value is that we keep it safe. We have safety team, we have lots of policies and procedures, and we just want to look out for that as well. We want kids to feel physically and relationally safe when they're in Mission Kids, and so we go after that as a team. And then also we believe that there's hope for every kid too. Mission Kids is not just childcare while the parents do the important stuff, because kids can have real relationships with God too. And so what we get to do in Mission Kids is believe that they can have hope in Jesus, that they can know him, and we show up at every age and stage and offer opportunities for kids to get to know him a little bit. It's a big deal, and because of that, we see opportunities in kids, not problems. We fight for every kid to belong, and we practice inclusion, and we are speakers of life and of encouragement and of truth, because we know that kids can have real relationships with God too. So that's what we're going after all together, always. And we do this so that kids can know God, not just know about him, not just know details about the Bible. We want kids to know what God's voice sounds like, what his love feels like, and what hope looks like when it's lived out in everyday life, no matter what our lives look like. And it's a big deal. And so we're always going after that all together. But my challenge for us this year is to really pay attention to who God has put in front of us. We go through the curriculum each week, and all of that matters, but it only matters insofar that we are able to show up for the kids that are in front of us and to make it work for them, and to go in knowing that there's more that we can do in the room besides just lead an activity or read through some questions. Like, all of our interactions matter so much. And so because we can point kids to Jesus through all of those interactions, and all the small things matter. And so as we do that, we get to help kids know Jesus, and that's a big deal. But part of paying attention to who's in front of us is really, really doing that and looking for that. Church is made up of the people that make it up, right? And it's made up of their friends and of their relational network and the people that they're inviting in. Anyone who is new to faith and shows up at a church is probably there because someone has invited them. Someone has been like, hey, I go here, you should come here, or check out that church. Like, there's always some connection there that draws people in. And so the church is made up of those people. It's made up of who we have and what they're like, and then the kinds of people that they invite in. And there's definitely a really cool trend that I want to pay attention to. We call it our one. And then, so we're going to talk about our one in mission kids. And a one, which you wouldn't know what that is unless you know what that is. So a one is just who we're reaching as a ministry and who we are aiming to reach. It's not meant to be exclusive at all. Like, we know we're reaching tons of different families and all kinds of different situations and all kinds of different seasons of life in mission kids. This is not meant to be exclusive. Like, we're only going to reach this family. But it is meant to be helpful in that we can inform ministry based on who God is putting in front of us. We can influence the way that we go about ministry by paying attention to the trends and the uniqueness of who God has put in front of us. You may have heard some of the pastors talk about praying for your one at one from the stage. And this comes from that same idea. Like, all of us have people that God has put in our lives. And we are uniquely able then to be able to reach those people and to offer hope and to help them get connected and to share our story and let God use that in big ways. And so we've talked about praying for your one, whoever that person is for you at 1 o'clock. But the idea of the one is the same in Mission Kids. Like, we're able to just define a little bit who our one is, so that we can just move towards that and just be able to see who God is bringing to us and then move towards those people's relational network and making sure that Mission Kids works for those families. So that's all a little bit abstract, so let me make it less abstract. Our one for Mission Kids, we call him Jack. Let me tell you about him. Jack doesn't have any church experience, or at least not much church experience before coming to mission. He is really starting at square one with God, and his grown-ups probably are in the same spot. Jack's childhood has been a bit rocky, and he's had to grow up faster than maybe we'd hoped he would have. And because of this, or he's done that because of that. And Jack has probably experienced some sort of trauma in his life. Meaning that there's been some experiences that have rewired his brain and kind of left him feeling guarded, untrusting, and just with a belief that he doesn't matter very much, which is a lie, obviously, but he doesn't know that yet. We know it, but he doesn't know it yet, and because of that, he has a difficulty connecting with other kids or with other adults in his life. It just is harder because he's so guarded and untrusting. Jack also is looking for attention because he has a desire to feel important and seen and known. Jack doesn't have a lot of control over his life and his home and just what's going on all the time. And so he is grabbing at any chance to control what's around him. And we see that in his behaviors. Jack has also probably seen addiction up close because his grown-ups have seen addiction up close. So whether that is his grown-ups walking through that or just other adults in his life, he has seen what that looks like and the effects of that. And that is a lot for a kid's brain. And so he's carrying that with them, and that will affect just his behaviors and his relationships as well. And he doesn't yet have a great example of what a healthy adult looks like, probably, if he's living in that situation. Not that his grown-ups aren't working on it and doing their best, but he may not have some great role models for what it looks like to make good choices and to follow Jesus and to just have healthy relationships and all that. He may not have seen that played out just yet. Excuse me. He's probably seen his grown-ups try to make some changes before, and they're hoping for the better, but a lot of those probably haven't panned out, and Jack just hasn't seen that change that was promised. And so that has left Jack with a high BS meter, knowing that, that's probably not going to work. I'm not going to think about that, or just being able to kind of see through the facade. And has also left him feeling just skeptical of hope, and therefore skeptical of God and church. But Jack also desperately needs some hope. He needs to feel like he belongs somewhere. But he doesn't know how to ask for what he needs, and we see that in Jack's behavior for sure. Like in Mission Kids, we might see that as to try to connect. Jack might seek attention through behaviors that disrupt the room. To test out if his leaders are trustworthy, Jack might be paying attention to see how and the way that you respond when he does something that you just told him not to do. They're also maybe a group of kids over there doing something that is not what the rest of the group is supposed to be doing. And in order to have a group and feel accepted by them, Jack is going to jump into that because then he's part of something and he can see how you can be a part of it. And so he's going to gravitate towards that in order to connect because that's how he's learned how. He also loves when you know who he is and you're really excited to see him because he is craving that love and that attention and that connection. He is paying attention and loves when you make him feel important. Ultimately, Jack is looking for acceptance and belonging. He's looking for control. He's looking to escape some of the pain that he and his family are experiencing, and he's looking to feel like he matters. Does this match the experience you're having in your rooms, in your spaces, and what you've seen to be true of Mission Kids? Because I definitely see it. It looks different at different ages and stages, obviously, but those core motivators, I think we can see as a pattern throughout Mission Kids. Just that desire for acceptance, for control, for escaping the pain, and to feel like he matters, to feel important. And to be clear, not every kid who's being disruptive has this narrative, has this story that he's living, but we definitely do have kids living this story that we can see in Mission Kids. We know when we ask more questions and when we get to know families, we can see that. So we don't want to just assume every disruptive behavior puts a kid in this category, because it doesn't. But we do want to know that this kid exists in Mission Kids, and we want to be able to just move towards that. Because we want to make sure Mission Kids works for Jack. And so what does that mean? That means in Mission Kids, we will always have disruptive behaviors. It means we will always have overt defiance. It means kids will say bad words and bring up topics in the rooms that are not appropriate for the room. It means these kids probably won't be very trusting of the leaders in the room, at least not right away, and we'll have to earn some trust with them. It means kids will have unmet needs that we are navigating in the spaces. It means we shouldn't assume who the grown-ups are that are bringing a kid in, but we should ask and find out who they are. It means we will always have kids who are not doing what they're asked to do because they're looking to be able to control something about their own experience. It means that Sundays will never have a room where every kid just listens and does the activities and is kind to everyone. That's just not going to be true of Mission Kids because of who we're trying to reach. But this is a win. It's not a problem. This is something to celebrate when we have this kid in our rooms. It means we're being right where God wants us to be, and we're moving towards just the kind of kid and family that God has put in front of us to be able to uniquely reach in a way that another church might not be able to. And so we celebrate that. When we're seeing that, I know it can feel frustrating, but I want to shift our brains in that to be like, this is such an opportunity. This is a story God is writing, and we get to be a part of it. One of my favorite stories from Mission Kids of all time, excuse me again, started about 8 years ago. I was actually brand new to the team, and we were still in the theater over on Johnson, if you remember those days. And the preschoolers all met in one room at that time, and I just remember the preschool room on this particular circumstance, this particular day, and they were watching their Bible story video, and the story was about how the Israelites overtook Jericho because they walked around it, because God told them to, and spoiler alert, the walls come tumbling down. God does the thing that he promises to them, and the Israelites didn't fight or do anything at all. They just obeyed what God told them to do, which was to walk around the walls of the city. And so the preschoolers in Mission Kids 8 years ago were watching this story, this Bible story, and there was one kid in particular that was kind of lounging in the back. He was laying on his side, head propped up, kind of engaged, not really engaged. And he was watching the story. All the kids are watching it. And it comes to the part where they get to the end and the walls come tumbling down. And he just sits straight up from his lounging position and goes, "Damn!" Which was hilarious. And everyone in the room, all the adults in the room, were trying so hard not to laugh because they didn't want to call attention to that word. But it painted such a cool picture of who we're reaching in Mission Kids. We are reaching kids that don't know the ends of these Bible stories, that they get to be surprised by them. They get to learn them genuinely. They're kids who probably are going to cuss in the room because that is what they know and that's their context. And it's also the kind of kid that is starting a journey with God that we are not going to see the end of usually. But this one's really cool because that was a story we told for years in Mission Kids about, who we want to reach. And last summer, 2023, that same kid went to middle school camp and got baptized the week after, which was nuts because we so infrequently get to see the story God's writing in a way like that, where we get to kind of see both parts of it. But sometimes he gives us that, and sometimes God shows us the impact of what we're doing. And that story is just such a cool example. It is that kid that's sitting in the back of your preschool room or your room, whatever age it is, kind of disengaged, cussing a little, like you're not sure if he wants to be there, but he is listening, and he is going to be surprised by the hope and life that we have in God, that God keeps his promises, and he gets to be on a journey with God, and we just get to be the part of it. Usually we get to set the foundation of it and then send them off to students or beyond, but sometimes we get to see the whole story, and it's just such a powerful reminder of why it matters that we reach this kid. And so feel free to tell that one. That's a great story. But we want that kid to inform the way that we do ministry in Mission Kids. And so for us, that means we need to be curious about behavior and see beyond the behavior and move towards the mess. That means when we see something, we want to lean in, we want to ask questions, and learn more. We want to ask, like, what does this kid really need right now? Do they need something physical? Do they need to move their bodies? Do they need some water? Do they need some structure and some clear instructions that are personalized to them? Do they need to feel seen and connected to someone in the room? It also means we work extra hard to make kids feel seen and loved. We want to know the kids in our care. We want to know what they like, what their life is like, and what they're capable of. Like, we want to know them so well. It also means we want to see the best in kids. Most people in the world will not care about kids the way that we care about kids. And so it matters so much more that we do that and we get to be that voice in their lives. There's a stat that says it takes 5 positive thoughts to outweigh one single negative thought, one negative thing that somebody said about you, one mean thing, one hurtful thing. It takes 5 positive things to outweigh that. And so we get to be the people who see the best in kids and call out the best in them and recognize the positive things and say those to them. Like, it matters so, so much. We get to speak life to kids. And the last one is we get to work hard to connect. We know that connection with kids, with their grown-ups, with each other matters so much because connection heals. Connection gives us the opportunity to share hope. Connection that we create with these kids gives them some context for what connection with God looks like and what his love is like and what his belonging is like. They see that in us. And I also want to say, this is obviously not the only kid that's in Mission Kids. And describing Jack as the kid that we're reaching isn't meant to be exclusive at all. We always want to make space for everyone. But we know that God is using Mission Church to reach some really specific families, and it's based on the relational reach, again, and who we know and the people who call Mission home. Because Mission has become a place where people in recovery invite their friends to. Mission has become a place where we don't have to have it all together to belong. Mission has become a place where you can be real, and a place where hope for everyone really does mean everyone. And their kids are who we reach in Mission Kids. This isn't about choosing a type of kid to focus on. It's about paying attention to who God is putting into our rooms on Sundays and who those kids' friends might be and might be coming in next. And so we call that kid Jack, our one. And it's meant to be helpful. But this is a bit twofold, right? That part should hopefully feel really validating, like the kids we see in our spaces that can cause us some frustration. Like, it matters so much that we're reaching them. And that's why we are trauma informed and why we structure the spaces the way we do. And like, it's so much of the why comes from knowing who we want to reach. But each of you has a unique person you can reach as well. Again, you may have heard us talk about pray for your one-at-one, and you probably have some ones in your life, but you should also have ones who are kids. We have kids that we can have a relationship with and can care about and can point towards the hope of Jesus with our own story. It matters a lot. So there's the one for the ministry, but there's also your one too. And maybe God put you in their lives to be able to speak a specific truth and speak life to them in a really unique way. Maybe that kid is walking through something that you've had to walk through. Maybe that kid enjoys something you enjoy, and that's a really easy connection point. Maybe you were the rambunctious, crazy kid in your younger years that you are now seeing in your spaces, and you saw how impactful it was for you to see that, to have adults show up for you. And now you want to be that for this youngest generation, for this next group of kids. Healthy kids need 5 non-related adults to be able to speak life into them, to be really healthy. And that's such a powerful place for God to use us as the church to make an impact. God uses our stories and our gifts to impact this youngest generation, to see them, to hear them, to make sure they know that they matter, and to give them hope and to show them what Jesus is like. You said yes to volunteering with Mission Kids for a reason, with kids specifically, and you've also stuck around for a reason. And I've been in your spaces, and I know that reason is not, hey, I would like to have some relaxing time with some nice kids that will just be really peaceful the whole time. Like, that's not why you're here. That doesn't exist. What we do is really hard. It can be draining, it can be frustrating, it can be confusing, and it can be inconvenient. And so you show up anyways, and I want us to find out why. Like, you probably know because you're here. So you have a big reason why you keep showing up for these kids. It might be even different than the reason you jumped in initially, but there's lots of different things it could be. It could be just obedience to what God has called you to. It might be because of who showed up for you as a kid or teen, and you want to pay that forward and you want to be that person for other kids. It might be because you met a kid at Mission and realized just the impact for good that you can have in their lives. It might be because you want to be a part of significant ministry with other volunteers and just have those friendships and connections. It might be because you have a high value of kids and just want to be the kind of person that has an impact on the future. Whatever it is, like, we all have one. We all have our why, and you know what it is. And honestly, you might have a few of them. But I think it's helpful to name them and to remember them and to come back to them to give us the courage to keep going. So we want to just be able to do that. So at the in-person volunteer kickoff, we did a prayer activity right now and just took a few minutes to take a card and just jot down our why. So I'm going to encourage you to do that right now. Just, pause the video and just take, 4 or 5 minutes just to be able to think through, like, why am I here? Why am I doing this? What impact does it have? Like, what's my why? So pause the video right now, jot down a few ideas, and just keep that with you. Put it somewhere you'll see it. You can add to it if you think of more things or just want to clarify some things. Like, it can be an ongoing thing. But I think defining your why is a really important and powerful way to remind yourself the value that you bring and to keep coming back and to keep going when it's hard. And it's different for everybody. So I can't tell you what yours is, but you can. So pause it now, take a few minutes. Did you do it? Awesome. I have a couple last things, but just before that, I want to say, if kids believed in their worth as much loved children of God, imagine how that would play out later in their lives. If kids believed that they were taken seriously, imagine how that would play out later. If kids believed that the adults around them at church genuinely cared, imagine how that could play out. Just think of just the cool and unique opportunities God gives us just by showing up in kids' lives. And this church as a place matters because kids need a place. Before they can wrestle with abstract concepts like hope and grace and forgiveness, kids need a place where they can connect with real people who are the church. Our vision for kids around here isn't that they get to know God, is that they get to know God at every age and stage and form healthy and lasting relationships with other kids that bring out the best in them. We hope that they learn to live out their faith and be hope carriers in their schools and on their teams and in their neighborhoods and their homes. And that happens when we take the time to engage personally and to get to know them. It takes connection, and connection takes consistent effort. It takes knowing a kid. And so what we say will matter more to kids when they know that they matter to us. What we say will matter more to kids when they know that they matter to us. So let's take that truth that we are loved unconditionally by the God of hope and let that flood the way we just have interactions with these kids. Let's rejoice when each kid walks in the door, especially Jack, or whoever year one is, and greet them as if we were greeting Jesus himself. Let's leave our comfort zones and just see how God might stretch us to truly get to know these kids for the humans that they are, and just be a consistent voice of hope and love in their lives by the way we show up. Let's not try to teach kids principles, but instead to hear the voice of God that loves them. Like, let's teach them how to do that. Let's lean in and just see how God might use us in the lives of these kids, and just think of the impact we could have in Ventura County if we did that faithfully to who God puts in front of us. Sure, we only get an hour a week, I know it, but if that hour is an hour of hope and of acceptance, of belonging, connection, of healing, of Jesus, like, imagine how God could grow that. And so that's what we're going after together this year. So let me pray for us. Lord God, thank you so much just for the ways that you're leading us. Thank you for the ways that you challenge us, that you guide us, and that you put us in places where we can have a real impact on your kingdom. I just pray for the school year in Mission Kids, that you would just use it as an opportunity just to really make a change, to really be hope dealers and to show up for kids in ways that matter, show up for their grown-ups in ways that matter. I pray that you'd stretch us, that you'd just give us so many opportunities just to be your hands and feet and just to see people the way that you do. And God, I just pray that you would keep our one and our why right in front of us, that you'd remind us of that constantly, that you'd bring it to mind frequently, and that you just help us stay connected to the mission you have called us to. In Jesus' name, amen. Awesome. Well, I've got a couple of housekeeping things just to wrap up our time together. First one is we are switching our background checks to LiveScan. So we were previously using an online form, but we are switching to fingerprinting through LiveScan just to be in compliance with some state rules. And just, our general value of protecting the kids in our ministry. So we are switching to that. There will be 2 opportunities on Sundays this month to be able to get live scanned. We will cover the cost. We just need you to show up with your fingers. And so this Sunday, the 15th, and then the following Sunday, the 22nd, right after the 9 o'clock service until before the 12 o'clock service, we will have someone available in the orange room. We'll just need you to fill out a form. So bring your driver's license, and we'll get your fingerprinted for that. So make sure to do that, though. We will cover the cost. We want to make it super easy for you, but we do need you to show up to actually do it. And that will be a requirement for continuing to volunteer. So let me know if you have any questions about that at all. One frequently asked question though. If you have been previously live scanned, we do need you to get live scanned again. It is not something we can just take from somewhere else. So that was one frequent question I've gotten already. So that's live scan. We also have a brand new Mission Kids t-shirt this year, which we are so stoked about. The old one is still great. If you have one of the ones we've had before, keep wearing it. That's awesome. This is not me asking you to buy a new shirt, but we have a new design that is super cool and we're just excited about it. So if you would like to get one, you can order on Sunday. They are $20 and we can do cash or card. So let me know if you would want one. You can order in huddles. And also we're starting a one-time only book club. We're going to read a book called A New Kind of Leader that just allows us to take some of what we've talked about today and just really think about how that applies to the way we interact with kids on Sundays and how we be a new kind of leader. And so you can order the book on your own. We'll send out the link. And then the book discussion will be on October 13th. It's a Sunday after the last service for the morning. So we'll get you all the info for that. But if you're interested at all in jumping in, it'll just be a fun discussion of that book and just being able to really just share some thoughts on what it means to show up for kids in our own context. So that is coming up as well. But that is all the information I have for you. Thanks for sticking with me. And we're just really excited about where God is leading us this year and just being really clear about who we are called to and creating spaces for that kid to thrive and to be known by God. So I'm really, really pumped for it. And if you have any questions at all, I would love to chat. Your coordinator would love to chat. But thank you for doing Volunteer Kickoff digital version. We'll see you on Sunday.